There's a lot of assumption being made on this tweet. I want a serious main character, not a sexualized one. Okay, so there's this game called Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, which features a really interesting looking female character, and it does boast incredible outfits that you can find in the game. That sounds nice, right? Going back to the tweet, the female character is not serious because she's sexualized. Loads of assumptions you got there, implying that you don't take women seriously because they wear sexy outfits. If you got distracted that easily, that's on you. To properly assess it, you need to see how her character is written. Bro, you just prejudge the character before the game is out, and before you know how the character is written, get out of here with that proper assessment BS. Also, I love how every suggestion that the replies made are like, just play these games that feature ugly characters, which is an appropriate response for someone that just goes, ew, sexy on a game. Here's my personal ugly game recommendation. Go play My Face is Tired Andromeda instead. I do have to remind people that the outrage towards video game sexualization is not an exclusively left-wing thing. This guy always popped up when I talk about the anti-woke, anti-porn grifters. What's Zenless Zone Zero? It's that game that you incorrectly call porn, and you want to ban it. Again, activists are not gamers. They don't even know Zenless Zone Zero. It's a very popular title from Hoyo, the developers of Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. I doubt that this guy have even heard of those. He then goes after my buddy Fritanga because he called out Razorfist, who has been embarrassing himself the last couple of weeks with god-awful takes, and then quitting a podcast because the viewers are calling him out through superchats. No, really, that happened. Shameful display all around. What I find baffling is this guy going, "You will never be a real woman." Fritanga is not trans. What makes you think that he is? And then there's this time where he just replied to a criticism by saying, "Trump is your president and you are over." Bro, these people don't care about Trump. They just think your take is terrible. It turns out that beyond all the anti-porn, anti-woke, anti-degeneracy, and anti-Satan takes, this guy is a furry and a brony. 2019 seems so recent, right? Before we get to the next Supla, if you like the content so far, don't forget to click the like button, comment, subscribe, and leave some tips. Links below. I read the My Hero Academia manga. It's alright, nothing too fancy if you ask me. It has a prequel covering vigilantes, and one of the characters is the idol hero Popstep. The upcoming anime adaptation has her outfit censored by giving her stockings rather than having her bare legs. Manga fans, lolicons when a 14-year-old girl isn't showing her bare ass in the anime. It's censorship apparently. Yes, factually speaking, it is definitely censorship. You are covering up more body parts than the original with more clothing. That's censorship. That's a fact. Not an opinion. Does it matter in the grand scheme of things? Not really. Am I personally bothered by that? Not really. If anything, covering her bare legs with stockings make it even hotter for some people. I can care about two things at the same time, but apparently I can't because I'm too focused on drawings. Your words, not mine, by the way. Yes, if anything, you shouldn't even care about the drawings to begin with. But since you prioritize fictional characters over real people, there's a reason why people bring that up. Maybe instead of beating your dicks on fictional drawings of kids, maybe invest your time into a job, money, bitches, and even a freaking life. That sounds wonderful, but most of us prefer to be losers online, including you apparently, because you're here arguing with them. Maybe then you'd have better things to do than defend things that doesn't affect you in the long run. Wow, you didn't realize how that very same thing applied to you, and yet here you are. They're drawings. Why are you so obsessed about them? Good question. Try asking yourself that. Speaking of drawings, here's a hoopla about drawings of men. This opinion is definitely too woke. People who ship male characters in fiction who are clearly friends reinforce the social construct of men not expressing platonic love because they don't want to be viewed as gay. Sir, we're talking about fiction here, not real life. You guys strip male characters of their bodily and mental autonomy to force them into your repugnant yaoi ship. Sir, these fictional characters do not have autonomy to begin with, so I have no idea what you're on about with this garbage. To you, all these characters are just stand-ins for whatever ship, attitudes, lifestyle, etc. that you want to enforce on them. Yeah, it's almost like they are yaoi shippers or something. That's what they do. Congratulations for figuring that out. But how does that apply to the social construct of guys in the real world? You're all just predisposed to disliking these kind of things because it isn't your brand of woke and because it hits too close to home about the truth you people are so desperate to hide. Sorry, but I don't see any truth from the words that you're saying here. Yes, yaoi shippers force fictional men to be gay to each other. That's the point. That's what they do. You don't like it because it somehow reinforces social constructs for men. In other words, it affects reality. No, it doesn't reinforce anything. You're giving these fujoshis way too much credit to think that they can reinforce their behaviors to any men in the real world. If anything, it sounds a lot like projection, and you're the one who feels like you're being influenced by them. Sucks to be you, I guess. Speaking of projection, there are loads of this stuff being projected on TV. If there are scenes in movies or shows that I don't want to watch, I have this amazing power called the fast forward button that allows me to skip those scenes so that I can get to the point. But unfortunately, instead of using that power, a lot of people just prefer to complain about it online. Too much sex in TV shows. Is it? I watch plenty of TV shows lately, and the sex is among the least of their problems. Take the sex out and give us a real plot. That implies that sex is not a real plot. You can suggest that they had sex. Don't show us, I guess, but you can also press the fast forward button and not complain about having it removed. Shows about teenagers in high school. Why are they marketed to young adults? Are they? Are you referring to shows like Euphoria? No, not the visual novel where they beat the crap out of anime girls. It's the TV show with Zendaya where they talk about sex and drugs. Most of the actors there are way older than the characters they're playing in the show. And considering the show is about teenage sex and drugs, that's for a very good reason. Why are those pretend teens so hypersexualized? Are they? I don't watch those shows, so I don't really know, but even if that's the case, they're all actually adults acting like high school teenagers, so I don't see what's wrong with that as long as you don't harass the real actors. I mean, someone has to talk about these taboo topics of high school teenagers diving into sex and drugs, but probably not in the way Euphoria did it. They're rarely done masterfully. This one I agree because the actors aren't always passionate at those types of scenes. Gen Z doesn't care for them. That's a more accurate description to my thoughts. I don't mind sex scenes in movies or shows. I can just press the fast forward button if I don't like it. And I think you all should exercise this amazing power while letting others that do enjoy them as is. Okay, those are all about fictional characters and sexuality in scenes. What are the next suplas? Oh, we're doing this again, huh? Man, the anti-woke people have gone really crazy. Woke games failed in 2024. While Dragon Age the Veilguard failed, that's the one game that I would definitively state as woke, we will see the industry change, especially when Trump is in office. What the hell does Trump have to do with the video game industry? If anything, he's bad for video games, because he's anti-video games. Baldur's Gate 3 aided the woke. I'm sorry, what? I've never seen a game pushing all the most destructive things in society in one game. Okay, so you're just gonna shove your anti-woke morals to everyone, and you're using Baldur's Gate 3 as your jumping-off platform, just like the woke people did? All the most destructive things in society in one game, and still succeed just because players were given options to choose to see it or be it. Most destructive things in society? This is a video game where you can be evil and kill everyone, but I absolutely draw the line on bare sex. Come on, dude. All the things pushed into this game, I don't believe need to be in gaming at all. Yeah, because you're an anti-woke moral guardian. You think bestiality is destructive for society, and therefore it's not okay in a video game. It's a video game. It's fiction. Let me sleep with my lowly dragon so I can take care of my lowly dragon daughter. Admittedly, I'm not a fan of the Baldur's Gate 3 druid bear option. I prefer the beautiful but admittedly mainstream choice half-elf next door. But I will defend the right for people to romance the shape-shifting druid bear against these moral guardians who think that their real-life anti-woke morality is something that will improve gaming. Had it released today, I'm sure it wouldn't have been succeeded the way it did. No, it would still be successful, because Baldur's Gate 3 is a phenomenal RPG that deserves every Game of the Year award that it gets. It's a fantastic game. What else can I say? Some of these anti-woke people have way too much time in their hands. This person gave a challenge. Name 7 woke games that failed in 2024. And then this dude decided to name nearly 100 games from the last decade made by SJWs that failed because they bombed, underperformed, or a waste of plastic and manpower. There are 85 games in the list of games made by SJWs that bombed or underperformed. Based on my subjective opinions, about 39% of them are indeed trash games. But they're not trash because they're woke. They're trash because they're awful games. There are some games in there that I would call woke. Battlefield 5, Saints Row 2022, Dustborn, Mass Effect Andromeda, Dragon Age Vilgard, and my personal favorite example of a woke game, Life is Strange 2, because it's so preachy in its immigration and racism story. But there are games that are just pure garbage that aren't because of political reasons, like Redfall, Battlefield 2042, Marvel's Avengers, Skull and Bones, Star Wars Outlaws, D&D Dark Alliance, The Day Before. All these games are trash even without the politics. Some of the woke games there are actually pretty awesome. Watch Dogs 2, Dishonored Death of the Outsider, Dishonored 2, Returnal, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, Prey 2017, I, The Somnia Files, and its sequel. These games are awesome, but they don't have a lot of marketing or are just underwhelming compared to its predecessor. Some games, I have no idea why they're there. What the hell is Prototype 2 doing there? That game is awesome. Is it because the protagonist is black? I didn't like DMC Devil May Cry, but it's not because it's woke. That's not the reason. Whoever made this list, you have way too much time in your hands, and you're too terminally political to recognize that sometimes crap games are crap because they're crap. I remember when games were simply about having fun and not preaching woke progressive politics down my throat, like Life is Strange 2 with how insultingly simplistic and reductive the way they tackled the immigration and racism issues. That's what most people should say, and yet some of you people keep on saying it like this. I remember when games were simply about having fun and none of this political crap. Yeah, this image right here, it's meant to make fun of the people that say this. Notice how the examples of the games that he's thinking are games that have all sorts of political themes. Why are you posting this joke unironically? You'll have loads of people in your replies going, "Duh, I don't want games with politics, and you cited Call of Duty 4. If you have complaints about the game being political, don't say that it's political, because most games that have a story do have some form of political elements in it. Describe why you say that the game is political. Is it because it's preachy? Is it because you don't agree with the politics? Or is it because they ruined the plot or the story? Whatever the case may be, using the word politics to describe a game being bad is you misrepresenting your own arguments. Don't do that. Speaking of games that have politics, this game certainly has plenty of that. I have said many things about Assassin's Creed Shadows, a lot of which are negative, but man, sometimes the outrage for that game is way out of proportions. Still can't believe Ubisoft created a game in 2025 where a black man goes around killing Asians. Why do you see this from a racial perspective? The actual history of Yasuke is still largely debated, but Assassin's Creed is mostly fiction. I'll let the Black Samurai slide. Samurai Warriors 5 also did it, and they arguably did it way better. The problem with Assassin's Creed Shadows is that it's just another mediocre Ubisoft slop. There have been gameplays and first impressions. It's not great. Ghost of Tsushima is an infinitely better game. Buy that instead. A black man killing Japanese people is the least problematic thing about Assassin's Creed Shadows. And if that's what you see first, then you're way too terminally political for this discussion. The combat and violence in this game is super gratuitous and off-putting. Okay, now you're criticizing it from a violence perspective. It's a video game. Him going around killing samurai is to be expected in an Assassin's Creed game that takes place in Japan. Criticizing it from a violence perspective makes you even more clueless about the series and gaming as a whole, and I don't even like this series post-Black Flag. Assassin's Creed was always about using stealth as an assassin to traverse the game, not be a man indiscriminately killing people. First off, the gameplay footage shows people with weapons, so those guys are a threat to the main character. Second, Origins started the whole Witcher light RPG Assassin's Creed back in 2017, and Valhalla is equally, if not more brutal in its gore. It's only during Mirage where they go back to the classic roots, but it's still a slop game. And then you go on about how this game isn't meant to be enjoyable, but it's meant to be a humiliation ritual for East Asians enacted by left-wing ideologues. It's a crap game made by a failing company. It's really not that deep. Okay, let's move away from the politics and talk about pure gaming, like hardware. That's one of my favorite topics. This is a rather debatable point. Sony putting their games on PC does make them less valuable. Somewhat, but I say it's their games being underwhelming that makes them less valuable. Sure, they sell a few copies, but the PS5 console loses value for a lot of people that way. Yeah, that's not my problem. That's Sony's problem. Whether their console has value or not, it's up to them to offer to consumers. And so far, their only value is that they're cheaper than building a mid-range gaming PC. That's pretty much it. Use the same logic with the Switch too. Without exclusives, it's not as valuable. That is debatable depending on what you value on a console. Personally, I always recommend the Switch for its portability, but nowadays, it's changed. The Switch has plenty of competition in the PC market in the form of handheld gaming PCs, all of which are successful in their own rights with their own pros and cons. The biggest selling point for the Switch right now, to anyone who hasn't owned a Switch, is their games. But even then, that is something that can be managed through emulations. As for the PlayStation 5, my suggestion is to make the console cheaper and make better and cheaper exclusives, because your exclusives have been rather underwhelming as of late, and they are very expensive. If the Switch 2 had all their Mario and Zelda games launch on PC and PlayStation the same day, the Switch 2 is irrelevant to me and a lot of other people. Facts! Actually, that's your opinion, but there are also other factors in why people buy a console. Switch 2 will definitely offer a better performance than the original Switch, but we do have to see what their system sellers will be like in the future. Speaking of hardware, peripherals also count as hardware. I sense a scrub quote on this hoopla. Nick Merckx said jokingly that video games are meant to be played with a controller, and that keyboards are for typing emails. I have no idea why you say this, but I have a good feeling that it's because you got slaughtered by someone using a mouse and keyboard. Personally, while I do like the mouse and keyboard, I think most PC gamers would benefit a lot from having a controller. I used to be on the mindset that a mouse and keyboard is fine, until my brother bought a controller and I realized that some games just play way better with it. While you can play retro games using a mouse and keyboard, I do prefer playing with a controller in some games. The Xbox 360 controller is still being sold to this day, it still works, and it plays games well, no complaints there. That said, there have been other X-input compatible alternatives like the 8-bit Dock controllers. I personally would go for PlayStation controllers like the DualShock 4 or the DualSense for PC. They are incredibly customizable using DS4 windows. It's the best controller if you want a lot of customization and if you want to play Switch emulators because they have gyro support and they can be used for motion sensors. That's my personal recommendation at least. But if you really want to cheap out, those cheap direct input PS2 knockoff USB controllers can work as long as you have a wrapper for it. And that's all for the video today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it to the end, here's a cat. And also huge thanks to all these wonderful sponsors. You are all fantastic. If you want to see your name among these legends, then check out the links below, just $1. And you have supported this channel a lot. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out my APB Show stream channel. Link below, go subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.